A D.C. council member is sounding the alarm tonight over the wide-reaching impact of crime. Ward 8 council member Trayon White today said if rampant shoplifting continues, the Giant on Alabama Avenue in Southeast may be forced to close its doors. News 4's Mauricio Casillas looks into what this would mean for food insecurity in the district and what's being done to keep that store open.
We're gonna work with John to keep this open.
A call to action to save an oasis of sorts in what is otherwise a food desert in Southeast D.C.
Taken from this store is really taken from yourself.
Councilmember Trayon White says he's met with management and Giant who tell him they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars due to shoplifting in this store alone.
We know it's tough times, and we know the price of food has skyrocketed in the last 3 years.
That's right, yeah.
But we cannot afford to hurt ourselves by constantly taking from the store, because that means that everybody is going to be without a place to eat. And enough is enough.
Okay, this is insane, right? So we got to talk about what's happening in DC. They are like begging for help in the district. Now, let me roll it back to let you guys understand what's going on. The good people in Washington, D.C. considered now crime to be an issue about race. If criminals, for some reason, they said needed to be understood rather than stopped. So D.C. just went on this crazy notion that we can just kind of forget all crimes. We're not going to arrest people for shoplifting. We're not going to arrest people for major crimes. We're just going to kind of let things go and let nature take its course. Here are some of the things, for instance, that they decided to do when they reformed their criminal code. Check this out.
I did talk to the team, and we have a couple of things that I just want to lay out for all of you and on what the DC bill does. It reduces maximum penalties for offenses like murders and other homicides, armed home invasion burglaries, armed carjackings, as I mentioned, armed robberies, unlawful gun possession, and some sexual assault offenses.
So you see, they were like, we're going to go light on crime because crime, for some reason, happened to be a race issue. It was racist. So what happens? Well, then if you're not going to stop people from committing crimes, you know what is going to happen is that's going to incentivize people to commit more crimes. Look how bad it's gotten in New York, where they had 10 career criminals who had 500 arrests since bail reform hit, right? So that's since bail reform. You know what? You think that's shocking, right? There's 10 people. That's about 50 arrests per person, right? You want to see something even crazier than this? This guy in NYC was arrested 101 times and let go every time because of bail reform. Remember, crime is racist now. 101 times for shoplifting. 101 times. Insane. This is how crazy it is. Matter of fact, here's the mayor of New York City telling you how crazy it is.
Our criminal justice system is insane.
Mayor Eric Adams not holding back on his strong criticism of the state's bail laws, saying that it's failing to keep recidivists in pretrial detention.
It is dangerous, it is harmful, and it's destroying the fabric of our city.
Recidivists are driving crime in New York City, according to the mayor and NYPD officials. The mayor outlines what he called the worst of the worst criminals. 716 individuals, the NYPD says, are responsible for 30% of shooting incidents in New York City since 2021. 54% of these individuals have an open felony.
New York remains the only state that prevents judges from considering the threat to public safety when making custody determinations.
The mayor and police commissioner have repeatedly called for state lawmakers to add a clause to New York's bail laws that would allow a judge to determine a defendant's dangerousness when setting bail. But this so-called dangerousness clause has been a non-starter for state lawmakers who have refused to take up the measure. And advocates say this discretion has led to racism.
The crisis impacts mostly black and brown people and low-income people. That's who's in jail.
So you see what I mean? Racism. But the people who are most affected by these bail policies are people of color. Do you think people in well-off neighborhoods have to worry about their supermarkets being closed because of shoplifting? No. It's the people in the inner city. Those are the people who are being harmed by these policies. So bad that now that brings me to what's happening in the good District of Columbia, DC.
Sounding the alarm tonight over the wide-reaching impact of crime. Ward 8 Councilmember Trayon White today said if rampant shoplifting continues, the Giant on Alabama Avenue in Southeast may be forced to close its doors. News 4's Mauricio Casillas looks into what this would mean for food insecurity in the district and what's being done to keep that store open.
We're gonna work with Giant to keep this open.
A call to action to save an oasis of sorts in what is otherwise a food desert in Southeast D.C.
Taken from this store is really taken from yourself.
Councilmember Trayon White says he's met with management and Giant who tell him they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars due to shoplifting in this store alone.
We know it's tough times, and we know the price of food has skyrocketed in the last 3 years.
That's right. Yeah.
But we cannot afford to hurt ourselves by constantly taking from the store, because that means that everybody is going to be without a place to eat. And enough is enough.
So what this is essentially created is what's known as a food desert, where you have a large area in Washington, D.C. that has no supermarkets. Think about that. Where are people going to go get stuff? So they have to travel long distances just to get the basic necessities of life. And when you have to do that, that costs resources, that costs you more money. That now makes, think about it. If I can walk to the supermarket and buy something, it's, you know, I really don't have to pay anything except for time. But now if I have to drive or take public transportation or go a very long distance for food, that not only takes time, but now it takes money and resources, maybe tolls involved. There's a lot of stuff that happens when you have to travel to go get something. And let's not forget, it's not at the convenience of it all. And that's what they're having to fight. But the only reason why these stores have to do this and have to threaten to close is because the police aren't arresting people for shoplifting. They're just not. Shoplifting is a crisis. It's a serious crisis that people want to pretend that, you know, it's a rich people problem. Oh, shoplifting is a big, you know, but no, it's a problem for everyone. Now, check out what happened when CNN went to San Francisco to do a puff piece on shoplifting crime. Listen to this. Just remember, and this was 30 minutes. They were there for 30 minutes. Check this out.
It comes as some stores are locking up everything from coffee to frozen food to try to combat theft. Our Kyung Law visited one Walgreens that's hit by shoplifters more than a dozen times a day. It happened 3 times while she was inside.
Richie Greenberg walked into a San Francisco Walgreens when he saw in the frozen food section this.
Chains, heavy chains that went from padlock to padlock on both sides of the doors, and this was bizarre, something I'd never seen before. This is just more icing on the cake, telling us that rampant crime has become a regular part of life.
So typical that in the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Now, why are they blurring his face out? That guy's committing a crime, right? So why are they blurring his face out? But the woman who's walking down, they're not blurring her face out, right? This is what I'm talking about. Even seeing it in this puff piece seems to be protecting the criminals, right? Show that guy's face. He's literally stealing right in front of your face.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
No, he didn't pay. No. But again, this is because these ultra left-wing cities and states like New York, crime is racist. Crime is racist. If you say there's a crime problem, you're the racist. You heard it earlier. But what do you do? Now, if I was if I was Walgreens, if I was all these retailers, I'm out of there, right? I don't need to have my store in the middle of the hood. Why? Because if the police aren't going to come and help me, you know, stop people from shoplifting, and I had to spend millions of dollars. I got to chain up the freezers. I got to chain up everything. I can't have anything out because somebody's going to steal it. And then when I call for help, nobody's going to come help me. Then you know what? So what? I am not going to deal with this. I will not deal with this. And, you know, and it's going to cause things like this. And I want people to think about this before I end this video. I want people to think about this. These policies of allowing crime to just go unchecked are not helping minorities and black people in the inner city. They're hurting them because look, shoplifting threatens closure of Southeast DC grocery, creating potential food desert. Now that food desert, see all these pictures of the shoplifting? The food desert is not going to affect white people who live in good neighborhoods. It's not going to affect black people who live in good neighborhoods. It's only going to affect people who live in the hood. These same people you are talking about protecting from the police, because if they steal something, you don't want them to be arrested, are the same people who are being hurt by these policies. Matter of fact, they're the only people being hurt by these policies. And that is what needs to happen. We need to make sure that if you are doing these things, you are punished, and take the whole political aspect of it. It's crazy because, sometimes I think when it comes to the left wing, no matter how many, they always say, we're for science, we're for truth, we're for facts and evidence, but that's just generally not true. The facts are the policies of the left are doing more harm to the people who vote for them than anything else. Remember, this is DC we're talking about. 80% are voting Democrat, and these are Democrats who are destroying their city. Where now you can't even shop at the supermarket anymore. Democratic policies. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comments section. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm out of here. Peace.